I'm Margaret Walker, 68 years old, and my daughter-in-law just told me that my house has been sold and I'm going to a nursing home. Right now, I'm sitting in an upscale restaurant staring at legal documents I supposedly signed, while Jessica smiles like she's doing me a favor. But what she doesn't know is that I've been expecting this moment for 3 months, and the FBI is already on their way. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Everything started 3 months ago when my son David's wife suddenly decided she cared about my well-being. 3 months ago, I was just another widow living alone in the house my late husband Robert and I had shared for 40 years. Every corner held a memory. The kitchen where we'd cooked Sunday dinners, the garden he'd tended until cancer took him 3 years ago. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine, paid off completely, worth about $500,000 in today's market. David, my only son, used to call every week. Then it became every month. By last spring, I was lucky to hear from him on holidays. I understood. He was busy with his career, his marriage. What mother doesn't make excuses for her children? Then Jessica appeared at my door one Tuesday morning, holding a casserole dish and wearing the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Mom!" she gushed, though she'd never called me that in the 12 years she'd been married to David. "I've been so worried about you all alone in this big house." The house has 3 bedrooms. It's hardly a mansion. "I'm fine, Jessica," I said, but I let her in. That was my first mistake. She started coming by twice a week, then every other day. Always with food I didn't need, always with that concerned expression that never reached her eyes. She'd walk through my house like she was appraising it, running her fingers along the furniture, checking the artwork on the walls. "You know, Mom, this place must be so hard to maintain all by yourself," she'd say. I maintained it just fine. I may be 68, but I'm not helpless. I still do my own grocery shopping, tend my garden, even painted the guest bathroom last month. But Jessica had already written her own narrative about me, and nothing I said seemed to change it. The invasion started small. Jessica began leaving things at my house, a sweater here, a phone charger there. "Oh, I'll just keep this here for when I visit," she'd say. Then came the day she showed up with a key. "David gave it to me," she announced, letting herself in while I was having my morning coffee, "in case of emergencies." What emergency required her to walk into my kitchen at 7 a.m. on a Saturday? She started rearranging things. My medicines moved from the kitchen counter to a locked cabinet for safety. My financial documents disappeared from my desk and reappeared in a filing system she'd created. When I protested, she'd pat my hand like I was a child. "We just want to help you stay organized, Mom. At your age, it's easy to misplace important things." I haven't misplaced anything important in my entire life, but every objection I raised was met with that condescending smile and a call to David, who would inevitably take her side. "Mom, Jessica's just trying to help," he'd say over the phone, his voice tired like I was being difficult. "She cares about you." Then came the Thursday that changed everything. I'd gone to water my roses when I heard Jessica's voice through the open window. She was on the phone in my living room, speaking in a low, excited tone. "3 more weeks, baby. That's all. The old lady won't know what hit her." I stayed frozen by my roses, water running from the forgotten hose. "Mom!" Jessica's voice called out cheerfully. "I'm moving in tomorrow to take better care of you." The water pooled around my feet, soaking through my garden shoes, as cold as the realization settling in my stomach. Jessica moved in the next day with 3 suitcases and a sense of entitlement that filled every room. She took over my husband's old office, converting it into what she called her command center. Within hours, my peaceful home became her domain. "Mom, you don't need to worry about bills anymore," she announced, gathering my checkbook and credit cards. "I'll handle everything." "I've been handling my finances for 50 years, I said firmly, "and you've done wonderfully. But it's time to rest now. Let the younger generation take over." David arrived that evening with more boxes. He wouldn't meet my eyes as Jessica directed him where to put things. My son, who once stood up to bullies in 3rd grade, now couldn't stand up to his wife. "This is still my house," I reminded them at dinner. Jessica laughed, that tinkling, fake laugh that made my skin crawl. "Of course it is, Mom. We're just here to help." But her help felt like occupation. She started telling neighbors I was showing signs of confusion. Mrs. Patterson from next door looked at me with pity the next time we met by the mailbox. "Jessica says you've been forgetting things, dear. It happens to all of us." I wanted to scream that the only thing I'd forgotten was how manipulative my daughter-in-law could be. But defending yourself against accusations of mental decline is like quicksand. The more you struggle, the crazier you look. By the second week, Jessica was intercepting my mail, answering my phone, and scheduling appointments for me. "The doctor says you need more supervision," she told me after a visit I didn't remember agreeing to. I looked at my son, sitting silently at my kitchen table. "David?" He just stared at his coffee. "Mom, we're doing this because we love you." Love? What a convenient excuse for theft. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, the bed I'd shared with Robert for 40 years, and made a decision. They thought I was just a weak old woman, but they'd forgotten something important. You don't reach 68 by being stupid. I started paying attention, really paying attention. Jessica was careless when she thought I was napping. She left papers out, took phone calls in the garden, typed passwords while I sat dozed off in my chair. She had no idea I was documenting everything. In my bedroom closet, behind Robert's old suits I couldn't bear to donate, I kept a small recorder I'd bought years ago for grocery lists. Now it became my lifeline. I also had something else hidden there. A box of photos from my working years. Pictures Jessica had never bothered to look at. One afternoon, while Jessica was out getting her nails done with my credit card, I called an old friend. "Margaret Walker," the voice on the other end exclaimed. "I thought you'd dropped off the face of the earth." "Not yet, Sarah, but I might need your help." Sarah Mitchell and I went way back, 30 years back to be exact. Some friendships you never forget, especially when they're forged in the kind of work we used to do. "What do you need?" she asked, her voice shifting from friendly to professional in an instant. "Not yet," I said, hearing Jessica's car in the driveway. "But soon. Can you run some background checks for me?" "Margaret, are you in danger?" I looked out the window at my daughter-in-law, checking her makeup in the car mirror before coming in to continue her performance. "In a way," I said. "I'll call you next week." I hung up just as Jessica walked in, all smiles and shopping bags. The truth revealed itself on a Wednesday evening. Jessica thought I was at my doctor's appointment, the one she'd scheduled for me, but I'd called and rescheduled it without telling her. Instead, I came home early and quietly entered through the back door. Jessica was in the living room on a video call, laptop open, documents spread across my coffee table. I stood in the hallway, invisible, recording everything on my phone. "The notary will meet us at the restaurant on Saturday," she was saying. "I've already got a buyer lined up, cash offer, quick close." A man's voice responded from the laptop. "And the old lady has no idea?" Jessica laughed. "She barely knows what day it is. I've got the neighbors convinced she's losing it. Even her son believes she needs full-time care. The signatures look good," the man continued. "You did a nice job with the practice runs." My signature. She'd been practicing forging my signature. 3 months of playing devoted daughter-in-law is about to pay off, Jessica said. $500,000, Tom. And the beauty is, she'll be tucked away in that nursing home before she even realizes what happened. "What about the son?" "David?" Jessica snorted. "He's so desperate to avoid conflict, he'd sign his own mother away rather than argue with me. He actually thinks this is for her own good." I backed away slowly, my heart pounding but my mind crystal clear. In my bedroom, I uploaded the video to 3 different cloud services, then emailed it to Sarah with a simple message. "It's time." Her response came within minutes. "FBI Financial Crimes Unit is very interested. Keep recording everything. Do not confront them yet." Saturday, 3 days to gather everything I needed. 3 days to prepare for the performance of my lifetime. The next 3 days, I became the actress Jessica believed I was, but playing a different role entirely. I shuffled more, forgot names, asked the same questions twice. Jessica ate it up, her confidence growing with every confused moment I displayed. "David, your mother asked me 3 times today what year it is," I heard her whisper Friday night. "Tomorrow is really for the best." Meanwhile, I was busy. While Jessica was at her yoga class, I photographed every forged document in her command center. When she went grocery shopping with my credit card, I recorded her practice signatures from the hidden camera I'd set up. At night, while they slept in my guest room, I sent everything to Sarah. "Margaret, this is big," Sarah told me Friday afternoon. "Wire fraud, elder abuse, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud. We're talking federal charges. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" I thought about David, my little boy who used to bring me dandelions and call them flowers. Then I thought about the man who sat silent while his wife plotted to steal my home. "I'm sure," I said. "What do you need from me?" "Just play along tomorrow. Get them to admit everything in front of witnesses. We'll handle the rest." That night, I pulled out an old photo from my closet. Me in my courtroom suit, standing next to the Attorney General after winning a major RICO case. 30 years as a federal prosecutor, and Jessica thought I was just some helpless old woman. I looked in the mirror and saw not a victim, but a warrior preparing for one last battle. "Tomorrow," I whispered to Robert's picture on my nightstand, "I'm going to show them exactly who they're messing with." Have you ever felt betrayed by the very people who were supposed to protect you? Sometimes the ones we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But here's what I've learned. We're never as powerless as others want us to believe. Our strength might be hidden, but it's there, waiting for the moment we need it most. If this story is touching your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. And now, let's see what Margaret has planned for this fateful meeting. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, perfect weather for what was about to unfold. Jessica was practically vibrating with excitement as she laid out my nicest outfit, a floral dress that made me look every bit the harmless grandmother she wanted me to be. "Now, Mom, we're going to lunch at the Wellington," she said slowly, as if I were a child. "There will be some papers to sign, just routine stuff for your care." "Papers?" I asked, adding a tremor to my voice. "Nothing to worry about. David and I have handled everything." David appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of guilt. "Mom, this is for the best. You'll be so much happier at Sunset Manor." "If you say so, dear," I replied meekly, while mentally reviewing the federal statutes they were about to violate. The ride to the restaurant was silent except for Jessica's humming. She'd chosen the Wellington specifically, public enough to seem legitimate, private enough that she thought no one important would witness what was about to happen. She didn't know I'd called ahead and requested a table in the center of the main dining room. As we walked in, I noticed two familiar faces at the bar, Sarah's colleagues, looking like casual diners. Jessica, focused on her triumph, noticed nothing. The lawyer was already waiting, a pompous man named Thomas Bradley, who stood up with an oily smile. Next to him sat a young woman with a notary seal. "Mrs. Walker, so wonderful to finally meet you," Bradley said, pulling out my chair. "Jessica has told me so much about you." I bet she had. I sat down slowly, letting my hand shake slightly as I reached for the water glass. "Shall we order first?" Jessica suggested brightly. "Mom loves the salmon here." I'd never eaten here before in my life. "Before we order," I said softly, "could someone explain what exactly I'm signing? I'm a bit confused." Jessica's smile widened. Perfect. The confused old lady was playing her part. "Of course, Mom." She spoke loudly, clearly, making sure the notary heard every word. "We're just finalizing the sale of your house and your transition to assisted living." "Sale?" I blinked slowly. "But I don't remember agreeing to sell my house." Bradley jumped in smoothly. "Mrs. Walker, you signed the listing agreement last month. Don't you remember?" "I did?" "Yes," Jessica said, pulling out a document. "See, here's your signature." I studied the forged signature with great interest. "This doesn't look like my handwriting." "Mom, of course it is. You've been having trouble remembering things lately." Jessica's voice carried just the right note of concerned pity. Several nearby diners glanced our way sympathetically. "But where will I live?" I asked. "Sunset Manor. It's a beautiful facility. They'll take such good care of you." "And the money from my house?" Jessica and Bradley exchanged glances. "It will go toward your care, of course." "All of it? But the house is worth $500,000. Quality care is expensive, Mom." I turned to David, who was studying his menu intently. "David, is this really necessary?" "It's for the best, Mom," he mumbled without looking up. I let my shoulders slump in defeat. "If you think so. But could you explain everything one more time? I want to understand." Jessica practically glowed. This was going even better than she'd planned. "Of course, Mom. Let me walk you through everything." She had no idea she was about to walk herself straight into a federal indictment. "So," I said, pulling my reading glasses from my purse, the ones with the tiny camera Sarah had given me. "Show me these documents I supposedly signed." Bradley spread the papers across the table with a flourish. "Here's the power of attorney, the listing agreement, and the sales contract." I examined each one carefully, making sure the camera captured everything. "Mr. Bradley, are you aware that forging someone's signature is a federal crime?" His smile wavered slightly. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Mrs. Walker." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact." I turned to the notary. "Miss, what's your name?" "Jennifer Santos." "Miss Santos, did you personally witness me signing these documents?" She shifted uncomfortably. "Well, Ms. Jessica Walker provided them to me already signed." "So you're notarizing documents you didn't actually witness being signed." I kept my voice pleasant, conversational. "That's interesting. And illegal." "Mom!" Jessica's voice was sharp. "You're confused." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone. "Because I have some very clear recordings that suggest otherwise." The color drained from Jessica's face. "What recordings?" "The ones where you discuss forging my signature. The ones where you call me the old lady who won't know what hit her. The ones where you detail your entire plan to steal my house." Bradley started gathering his papers. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Sit down, Mr. Bradley." My voice was no longer weak or trembling. "You're going to want to hear this. You see, conspiracy to commit wire fraud carries a 20-year sentence. How familiar are you with federal prison?" The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Every eye was on our table. Jessica looked around wildly, realizing too late that we were completely surrounded by witnesses. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "Would you like to hear my favorite recording, Jessica?" Before she could answer, I hit play. Her voice filled the restaurant, clear and damning. 3 months of playing devoted daughter-in-law is about to pay off. $500,000, Tom. And the beauty is, she'll be tucked away in that nursing home before she even realizes what happened. Gasps rippled through the dining room. A woman at the next table pulled out her phone, clearly recording. Jennifer Santos, the notary, pushed back from the table. "I had no idea," she stammered. "She told me everything was legitimate." "Ignorance isn't a defense, Miss Santos," I said calmly, "but cooperation with federal investigators might help your situation." "Federal investigators?" Bradley's voice cracked. "Oh, didn't I mention? I sent all of this to the FBI 3 days ago, Financial Crimes Division. They're very interested." Jessica lunged for my phone, but I pulled it back. "There are copies, dear, in the cloud, with my lawyer, with the FBI, and with several news outlets who would love a story about elder abuse." David finally looked up, his face pale. "Mom, please, we can work this out." "Can we? Like you worked out stealing my home? Like you worked out destroying my reputation with the neighbors? Like you worked out having me declared incompetent?" "It wasn't supposed to be like this," Jessica shrieked, abandoning all pretense. "You were supposed to be grateful. We were taking care of you." "By robbing me?" Bradley stood up. "I'm leaving. This meeting is over." "Mr. Bradley," I said pleasantly, "you might want to stay. The FBI will have questions, and leaving now might look like fleeing the scene." He sat back down, sweating through his expensive suit. "You know what's funny?" I said, looking directly at Jessica. "You spent 3 months researching me, and you missed the most important thing." "What are you talking about?" Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. "My career. You knew I was retired, but you never asked from what." I stood up, my back straight, my voice carrying across the silent restaurant. 30 years, Jessica. 30 years putting people like you in federal prison." David's coffee cup clattered to the floor. "Mom, you were a teacher." "No, son. That's what I told the neighbors when you were young. I didn't want you growing up as the prosecutor's kid with a target on your back. Your father and I agreed it was safer that way." I pulled out a business card from my wallet. Old, worn, but still readable. Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Walker, Financial Crimes Division. I placed it on the table. I've prosecuted over 200 cases of fraud, racketeering, and elder abuse. I've never lost a case. Jessica was shaking now. You can't prove anything. It's your word against ours. Actually, I said, pulling out a folder from my purse, I have 3 months of evidence. Every forged document, every recorded conversation, every email you sent from my computer thinking you deleted them. I smiled. You really should have checked if I had cloud backup enabled. This is entrapment, Bradley sputtered. No, counselor. Entrapment is when law enforcement induces someone to commit a crime they wouldn't otherwise commit. I'm just a private citizen who documented crimes being committed against me. Big difference. I looked at my son, who seemed to have aged 10 years in 10 minutes. David, you have 5 minutes to decide. Are you a victim of your wife's manipulation, or are you her accomplice? Jessica stood up, her chair scraping loudly. You can't intimidate me, you old bat. So what if you were a prosecutor? That was decades ago. You're nobody now. I smiled and dialed a number on my phone, putting it on speaker. Sarah, yes, we're ready. Copy that, Margaret. We're coming in. Jessica's face went white. Who was that? Special Agent Sarah Mitchell, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. Also my former colleague and current friend. I checked my watch. You have about 30 seconds before this becomes a federal crime scene. You're bluffing! Jessica grabbed her purse. David, we're leaving! But David didn't move. He sat frozen, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Mom, what have we done? You tried to rob your mother, son. The question now is whether you'll face the consequences with dignity or like your wife here. Jessica made for the door, but it was already opening. Sarah walked in, badge visible, followed by 2 other agents. The entire restaurant was recording on their phones now, the scene playing out like dinner theater. Jessica Walker? Sarah's voice was professional, calm. We need to ask you some questions about fraudulent documents filed in Margaret Walker's name. I want a lawyer, Jessica screamed. That's your right, Sarah said, though Mr. Bradley here might have a conflict of interest, seeing as he's also under investigation. Bradley's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. I need to call my attorney. I stood up and walked over to Sarah. Agent Mitchell, I have all the evidence organized chronologically. 3 months of documentation. Sarah smiled slightly. Just like old times, Margaret. Thorough as always. Jessica pointed at me, her perfectly manicured finger trembling. This is all her. She set me up. No, dear, I said quietly. You set yourself up. I just documented it. The restaurant manager approached nervously. Should I evacuate the dining room? No need, Sarah said. This isn't an arrest yet. We're just asking Ms. Walker to come with us voluntarily for questioning. I'm not going anywhere. Jessica backed toward the wall, knocking over a water glass. David, do something! David stood up slowly, his face a mask of anguish. Mom, please. She's my wife. Can't we handle this privately? Privately? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like you privately plotted to steal my home? Like you privately told the neighbors I was going senile? That ship has sailed, son. Mrs. Walker, Sarah addressed Jessica formally, we have evidence of wire fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and conspiracy. You can come with us voluntarily, or we can get a warrant. Your choice. This is insane, Jessica shrieked. I was helping her. She's old and confused. I pulled out another recording and hit play. Jessica's voice filled the room again. The old lady barely knows what day it is. I've got the neighbors convinced she's losing it. Then my voice, clear and steady. Jessica, today is Thursday, March 15th. The time is 2:47 p.m. I'm recording this conversation without your knowledge, which is legal in this state, as I'm a party to the conversation. Please continue telling Tom how you're planning to steal my house. The recording continued, with Jessica laying out every detail of her plan. The restaurant was dead silent, except for her damning words echoing off the walls. When it finished, I looked at my son. Still think I'm confused, David? He sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought You thought what you wanted to think because it was easier than standing up to your wife. I looked at my watch again. You know what? Let's make this even more interesting. I pulled out my phone and made another call, this time to a number I knew by heart. Your Honor? Yes, it's Margaret Walker. I'm fine, thank you. I'm actually at the Wellington with some FBI agents and my daughter-in-law who's been attempting to defraud me. Yes, the evidence I sent you. Would you mind? I handed the phone to Sarah. Judge Harrison would like a word. Sarah took the phone, her eyebrows rising as she listened. Yes, Your Honor. Understood. We'll proceed accordingly. She handed it back to me, a new respect in her eyes. The judge has authorized immediate asset freezing on all accounts associated with Jessica and David Walker, pending investigation. What? Jessica screamed. You can't do that! Federal judges can do quite a lot when presented with evidence of ongoing financial crimes, I said. Judge Harrison is particularly strict about elder abuse. We worked together for 15 years. The manager had given up any pretense of normal service. The entire restaurant was watching our table like it was a stage. Someone in the corner was live streaming. Jessica suddenly grabbed a steak knife from the table. Stay back, all of you! Sarah's hand moved to her weapon, but I raised my hand. Jessica, put the knife down. Adding assault with a deadly weapon to your charges won't help. You ruined everything, she screamed, waving the knife wildly. 3 months of pretending to care about you. And there it is, I said calmly, making sure everyone heard. The truth. You never cared. It was always about the money. Security guards appeared at the restaurant entrance. The situation was escalating, but I remained perfectly still, perfectly calm. This was just another day in court, and I'd faced far more dangerous criminals than my hysterical daughter-in-law. Sometimes in life, the people who underestimate us the most give us our greatest opportunity to show our true strength. Margaret spent decades fighting for justice, and now she's fighting for herself. What do you think will happen next? Will Jessica face the consequences of her actions? Leave your predictions in the comments below. And if you're finding strength in Margaret's courage, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more inspiring stories of people standing up for themselves. Now, let's witness the moment everything changes. The restaurant door opened again, and this time a distinguished older man in a perfect suit walked in. The entire room seemed to shift. Judge Harrison? Bradley gasped, recognizing him immediately. Hello, Margaret, the judge said warmly. Then his expression hardened as he looked at Jessica, still wielding the knife. Young woman, I suggest you put that down before you add federal assault charges to what's already an impressive list of felonies. Who are you? Jessica demanded, but her hand was shaking. Sarah stepped forward. Judge Harrison, we didn't expect you to come personally. When someone targets Margaret Walker, I take it personally, he said. This woman put away some of the most dangerous financial criminals in this state's history. She's a legend in the U.S. Attorney's Office. The knife clattered from Jessica's hand. Legend? Oh, yes, the judge continued. Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Walker, lead prosecutor on the Dennison scandal. You know, the one that took down 3 senators. The Richfield RICO case. The Morrison Medicare fraud that saved taxpayers $200 million. He looked at me with genuine affection. We used to call her the Velvet Hammer, soft-spoken, grandmotherly, and absolutely ruthless in court. David's voice was barely a whisper. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Because I wanted you to have a normal childhood, I said, and because true power doesn't need to announce itself. The judge pulled out an official document. Mrs. Jessica Walker, this is a federal restraining order. You are hereby banned from coming within 500 feet of Margaret Walker or her property. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Sarah nodded to her colleagues. Jessica Walker, we're placing you under arrest for wire fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. As the handcuffs clicked around Jessica's wrists, she started sobbing. David, help me! But David was staring at me, his world completely shattered. Mom, I didn't know she was doing this. I swear I didn't know about the forgery. But you knew she was trying to put me in a home, I said. You knew she was telling people I was losing my mind. You sat there while she took over my house, my finances, my life. I thought it was for your own good." "No, David. You thought it was convenient. There's a difference." Sarah's partner read Jessica her rights while the entire restaurant watched. Someone was definitely getting viral video content today. "Mr. Bradley," Sarah addressed the lawyer, "we'll need you to come in for questioning as well. Don't leave town." Bradley nodded mutely, his career flashing before his eyes. Judge Harrison turned to Jennifer Santos, the notary. "Young lady, your license is suspended pending investigation. Notarizing documents you didn't witness signing is a serious offense."
"I didn't know," she protested. "That's for the investigation to determine," he said firmly.
As they led Jessica toward the door, she turned back, her perfectly styled hair now disheveled, her makeup running. "You're destroying your own family. What kind of mother does this?" "The kind who spent 30 years putting criminals like you in prison," I said. "The kind who knows that family doesn't give you a free pass to commit felonies." "Mrs. Walker," Sarah said quietly, "we'll need you to come to the office to file formal charges." "Of course," I said. "I have everything organized. 3 months of evidence, all properly documented and verified." "Just like old times," she smiled slightly. "You always did build airtight cases." After Jessica was taken away, David and I sat alone at the table. The restaurant had mostly returned to normal, though people kept stealing glances at us. 30 years, Mom?" His voice was broken. 30 years of lying to me?" "Not lying. Protecting. Do you know how many death threats I received? How many criminals wanted revenge? Your father and I agreed. You deserved a childhood without bodyguards." "But after Dad died, you could have told me then." "Could I? You were already pulling away, already choosing Jessica over me every chance you got. Would knowing I was a federal prosecutor have changed anything?" He couldn't answer that. "David, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you know about the forgery?" He looked me in the eyes. "No, I swear on Dad's grave I didn't know about that. I thought she was just going to convince you to sell. I thought the papers were real." "But you knew she was lying to the neighbors. You knew she was taking over my life." He stopped, then started again. "Yes, I knew. And I let it happen because it was easier than fighting with her. Your father would be ashamed of you." The words hit him like a physical blow. "Mom, please. She's my wife, the mother of my children. Your children who haven't visited me in 2 years? Those children?" She said you didn't want to see them. "Another lie you chose to believe because it was convenient." I stood up. "David, I love you. You're my son. But love doesn't mean accepting betrayal. You made your choice. Now live with it. Are you pressing charges against me too? That depends on what the investigation finds. I suggest you get a lawyer, a better one than Bradley." Judge Harrison offered to drive me home. As we left the restaurant, he shook his head. "Margaret, I'm sorry it came to this." "So am I, Richard. But what choice did I have?" In his car, I finally let the mask drop. The strong prosecutor facade crumbled, and I was just a mother who'd had to arrest her daughter-in-law and potentially send her son to prison. "You did the right thing," Richard said gently. "Did I? My grandchildren will grow up with their mother in federal prison. Their mother who was stealing from their grandmother. What lesson would they learn if you'd let her get away with it?" He was right, of course, but being right didn't make it hurt less. "You know," he continued, "I remember when you prosecuted the Hartley case. The defendant's mother was in the gallery crying. You told me something then. Do you remember? That justice doesn't pause for family ties. Exactly. You lived by that principle for 30 years. You couldn't abandon it now just because it hit home. We drove past my neighborhood, and I saw Mrs. Patterson in her yard. She waved, then stopped, probably having seen the news already. By tomorrow, everyone would know. The confused old lady was actually a federal prosecutor who'd just taken down her own family." "Margaret," Richard said as we pulled into my driveway, "the U.S. Attorney's Office wants to know if you'd consider coming back as a consultant. Elder fraud is skyrocketing, and nobody knows it better than you." I looked at my house that I'd almost lost. "You know what? Yes, I think I'd like that." "The velvet hammer returns," he smiled. This time, I said, I won't hide who I am. By evening, the video was everywhere. Elderly woman reveals she's federal prosecutor, has daughter-in-law arrested, was trending on social media. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mrs. Patterson came over with a casserole and an apology. Margaret, I'm so sorry. Jessica told us you were, well, going senile? I suggested. Yes, and we believed her. We should have known better. You've been sharp as a tack all the years we've been neighbors. The local news showed up at my door. I gave them one statement. Elder abuse is a federal crime. No one is above the law, not even family. My phone rang. It was David's children, my grandchildren, calling from college. Grandma? It was Emma, my oldest granddaughter. We just saw the news. Is it true? Mom's been arrested? Yes, sweetheart. She told us you didn't want to see us. She said you were too sick for visitors. My heart broke a little more. I've never been sick, Emma, and I've wanted to see you every single day. We're coming home. Can we stay with you? Of course. This is your home, too. It always has been. After I hung up, I sat in my living room, in my house, and looked at the family photos on the mantel. Jessica's face had been carefully cut out of several of them, her scissors work discovered when I'd investigated her room after the arrest. She'd been erasing me from my own life, photo by photo, lie by lie. The news segment ended with the anchor saying, Jessica Walker faces up to 20 years in federal prison if convicted. Her husband, David Walker, is currently cooperating with authorities. 20 years. My grandchildren would be in their 40s when she got out. A week later, I sat in the federal prosecutor's office looking at the plea deal David's lawyer had negotiated. Testimonial immunity in exchange for full cooperation against Jessica. He's willing to testify, the young prosecutor said. Says Jessica manipulated him, threatened divorce, threatened to take the kids if he didn't go along with it. And you believe him? The evidence supports it. The forgeries were all her, the planning, the execution, all Jessica. David was weak and complicit, but not criminal. I thought about my son, the boy who'd once stood up to bullies, now claiming he was bullied by his own wife. Maybe it was true. Maybe Jessica had broken him down year by year until he couldn't fight back. Or maybe he was just a coward. I won't object to the deal, I said finally. But I want conditions. Such as mandatory therapy, financial restitution for the money Jessica stole using my credit cards, and a restraining order. He doesn't get to come back into my life just because his wife is gone. That's harsh considering he's your son. My son stood by while his wife tried to destroy me. That's harsher. The prosecutor nodded and made notes. The judge will likely approve these conditions. As I signed the papers, I thought about forgiveness. Maybe someday I could forgive David. But forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean letting him back into a position where he could hurt me again. Mrs. Walker, the prosecutor said, I studied your cases in law school. The Morrison case was brilliant. That was a long time ago. Maybe, but it saved my grandmother's Medicare. She would have lost everything without that verdict. So, thank you. I smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Just doing my job. That night, I sat in my kitchen, Robert's and my kitchen, making dinner for one. The house was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet, not the oppressive silence of Jessica's occupation. My granddaughter Emma had called earlier. She and her siblings were transferring to local colleges to be closer. We missed so much time with you, Grandma. We're not missing any more. I'd cried after that call. Happy tears, finally. The doorbell rang. It was Sarah Mitchell, holding a bottle of wine and a smile. Thought you might want company, she said. We sat on my back porch, watching the sunset, sipping wine like we had 30 years ago after winning big cases. You know what the hardest part was? I said, pretending to be weak, letting her think she'd won. But that's what made it work. You let her confidence become arrogance. Classic prosecutor move. I learned from the best. No, Margaret, you were the best. Still are. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sarah said, The office wants to create an elder fraud task force. They want you to head it. I'm 68 years old. So, You just took down a conspiracy ring at 68. Imagine what you can do at 69. I laughed, really laughed. You know what? Why not? I've spent 3 months being treated like a helpless old woman. Time to remind people that age brings wisdom, not weakness. The velvet hammer rides again. No, I said, raising my glass. This time, I'm the steel hammer. No more velvet gloves. We clinked glasses as the sun set over my garden. The roses Robert had planted still blooming, still beautiful, still strong. Just like me. 6 months later, I stood in a federal courtroom watching Jessica receive her sentence. 15 years, with possibility of parole in 10. She looked smaller in her prison jumpsuit, her perfect hair now showing gray roots. David sat behind me, alone. We hadn't spoken since that day in the restaurant, but he'd sent letters. I hadn't opened them. As they led Jessica away, she looked back one more time. I met her eyes steadily, without anger or satisfaction. Just resolution. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Mrs. Walker, how does it feel to see your daughter-in-law go to prison? It feels like justice, I said simply. No one should be afraid in their own home. No one should have their dignity stripped away because of their age. What's next for you? I'm heading the new Elder Fraud Task Force. We've already opened 12 cases this month. My grandchildren were waiting by my car. Emma, James, and little Sophie, though she wasn't so little anymore at 19. They'd been living with me for 3 months now, filling the house with laughter and life again. Grandma's a badass, James whispered to his sister, not quite quietly enough. Language, I said automatically, then smiled. But you're not wrong. That evening, we had Sunday dinner, a tradition Jessica had killed, and we'd resurrected. The house was full of noise and love, and the smell of pot roast. My grandchildren's friends joined us, fascinated by the prosecutor grandma who'd become a local legend. Grandma, Sophie asked, were you scared during all of it? No, sweetheart. I was angry, and anger, properly channeled, is just another form of strength. Will you teach us how to be strong like you? I looked at their eager faces, so young, so full of potential. I'll teach you everything I know. Margaret's story reminds us that our greatest strength often comes when we need it most. Age is not weakness, solitude is not vulnerability, and family doesn't give anyone the right to abuse our trust. If you've ever had to stand up to someone who underestimated you, you know the courage it takes. Share your story in the comments. Let's celebrate the strength we all carry inside. If Margaret's journey inspired you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories of triumph over betrayal. Remember, you're never too old to fight for justice, and you're never alone in that fight.